Greetings, dear viewers. Today I would like to talk about the default primary weapons for all three factions for their heavy assault classes. So we're going to be talking about the new conglomerates NC6 Gauss Saw, that's this weapon you see me holding right here. We're going to be talking about the Terran Republic's T9 Carv and the Vanu Sovereignty's Orion VS54. Now, I want to touch on these weapons because they are the heavy assault weapons, and I don't want to talk about anything else besides just these primary weapons, and we're going to discuss them as far as how to use them as if you had just rolled a new account, rolled new characters, and you want to get out there and use them and hopefully use them effectively. There's a lot of information about these guns already online, but some of it can be kind of overwhelming and a lot of it may be outdated. So, for the newer players, or those players just returning, let's go ahead and get started and jump right into the default primary weapons for all three factions for the heavy assault classes in very simple terms. And hopefully, some players will be able to get a lot out of this and be able to use their weapons more effectively on the battlefield. Alright, let's kick things off here with the new conglomerate. Because I am a new conglomerate player, we're going to start off with NC, then we're going to go TR, then we're going to go VS. Okay. Alright, so let's go ahead and start out. The default primary weapon for the new conglomerate, this is the weapon you're going to get if you had just rolled a brand new account, as this account is the NC6 Gauss Saw. Now, I'm going to say right up front in this video that the NC6 Gauss Saw is the weapon of these three that we will be talking about the most. Not only because I am new conglomerate and I have the most practice with this weapon as opposed to the other two, but also because the weapon itself is very advanced and there's a lot to talk about here. This is the most advanced of all three starter weapons for the heavy assault classes, so there's a lot to talk about here, so we will be talking the most about the NC6 Gauss Saw, which is why it's going to take up the majority of this video's time. Okay, or whatever it's going to be taking up the majority of the length of this video, we'll put it that way. Okay. So, the NC6 Gauss Saw. There seems to be some prevailing notion among experienced players that this weapon shouldn't even be a starter weapon in the game, because it is very advanced. So let's go ahead and load it up. I'm going to hit resupply, and we're going to have the NC6 Gauss Saw cradled in our arms, nice and ready to go. So, this is essentially a cannon that you are cradling in your arms. Listen to this gun fire. Yeah, essentially a cannon that you are cradling in your arms, okay? It hits extremely hard, but the weapon also, and this is what makes it very advanced, the weapon also is extremely difficult to control compared to the other two weapons. The gun kicks a lot. If I aim down sights, which is holding right click, whenever you hold right click you are aiming down sights, that's what this is. And this is called firing from the hip if you're not holding right click. Okay, now you know those two terms. Firing from the hip and aiming down sights. If I aim down sights and I do not move the mouse while holding down the trigger, we'll see how much this weapon kicks. You can see that the weapon pulls up significantly while you are firing it, and the spread does kind of spread out, and it's difficult to control because of how hard it kicks. So the first thing you're going to want to do when you learn how to use this weapon is learn how to pull down on the gun as you are firing. If you pull down on the mouse while you're firing, you'll be able to keep tighter clusters and be more accurate that way, because the weapon is hard to control. So that's the first thing you're going to want to learn. The second thing you're going to want to learn with this gun is that you should always be, you should almost always be aiming down sights with the NC6 Gauss Saw. Aim down sights as much as possible with this weapon. Avoid close range combat. You don't want to be in close range combat with this, because this gun's hip fire is very inaccurate. You can see the reticle right here, you've got these crosshairs. That's a pretty wide radius, and that is where your bullets will land. They'll fall anywhere in that circle that are formed by these crosshairs. So you don't really want to be getting into engagements where you have to hip fire. As a general rule, you want to hip fire a weapon when you are at close range and aim down sights when you are at medium to long range. This gun is designed for medium to long range engagements. The bullets hit very hard even at medium to long range, so you want to be aiming down sights as much as possible. Now again, because the gun kicks a lot while you are firing, you want to also apply some trigger discipline and only fire in bursts of 3 to 4. Okay? So those are the things you want to know with this weapon right off the bat. That's the basic, simplest way to use the NC6 Gauss Saw. And you're going to hear me say this multiple times, this exact bit. You want to engage medium to long range in bursts of 3 to 4.
light assault trooper spotted.
Medium to long range in bursts of 3 to 4.
Enemy engineers in the area.
Okay, you want to be firing medium to long range in bursts of 3 to 4. That is how you're going to be using this weapon. If you do that, you'll have very accurate clusters here. That one is extremely accurate. That's 3 or 4 rounds that landed all essentially in the same spot. These right here are one cluster. That's another cluster. It was a little messy. That's another cluster. So yeah, the spread is minimal if you aim down sights and you fire in only bursts of 3 to 4. So that's how you want to be firing this gun. And that's the basics of this weapon. If you take nothing else away from this video, learn that to use the NC6 Gauss saw, you engage at medium to long range in bursts of 3 to 4.
Enemy infiltrator spotted. Eyes open. Heavy. Visual on a hostile light assault. Eyes on a hostile light assault. You got a hostile group nearby.
Now, if targets do end up in front of you at extreme close range, you don't want to be aiming down sights. Because imagine this target is strafing left and right, and so are you. It's going to be very difficult for you to keep your crosshair, or to keep your iron sight on your target if you're aiming down sights. So if your target does happen to pop up like around a corner or something, you run into a building, turn a corner, and there's a target, then yeah, go ahead and... I think this target's swapped. Yeah, go ahead and fire from the hip. Because this gun will shred targets in extreme close range. But they must be in extreme close range for you to get that benefit. For you to be able to fire from the hip and deal that much damage that quickly. Otherwise, avoid engagements 10 meters or closer. You want to be engaging... Okay, here's another really close target. And another. So you see, the hip fire on this gun is good at extreme close ranges, but most of the time you want to be aiming medium to long range in bursts of 3 to 4. See that? There's some NC back there. Another thing you want to learn is not to reload this gun very often unless you absolutely have the time to reload. You can tell that this gun has an extremely long reload time. Let's reload on ammo here. Picking up more ammo from the terminal. Okay. So one thing that a lot of shooter games will train you to do, one thing you'll get used to doing in other shooter games, is taking a few shots and then reloading, right? That's what you do in a lot of games. You take a few shots.
Infiltrator spotted.
Okay, I just used 10 of my 100 rounds that comes in each magazine for the NC6 Gauss saw. I just used 10 of those, and then if I reload, look how long it takes me to get this gun back up and running. It takes forever. Now, if you're in a very live firefight and you're doing that, you don't want this to happen to you. You don't want to take your shot. Let's find some more targets. I'd say there's a lot of targets out in front of you. You don't want to take your shot at somebody, take them down, reload, and then be exposed or be waiting to get another kill. All this time, others are firing. You're being fired upon. There we go. Now we're ready. It's just way too much to reload this gun very often. You have 100 rounds in this gun's magazine. Make use of those 100 rounds. You've got 300 in reserve as well. Make use of this gun's high ammo capacity. And only reload whenever you make sure you have the time to do it. You're behind cover. There are no targets that you could be shooting at. There are no targets you could be covering. No friendlies you could be covering. Things like that. Apply some discipline when reloading this gun. Hold on to those rounds in the chamber or in the magazine. If it's at 90, 50, if you have some rounds left, try to hold on to them and don't reload unless you absolutely have the time to do it. I could reload right now, but instead I'm finishing targets. I'm finding more targets. I'm firing on more targets down range. We can get a lot of shots off. We can down a lot. See that? You can down a lot of targets with one magazine of this weapon on one reload. So don't reload this gun very often is what I'm trying to get across. Hold on to those rounds. Make sure you use them and only reload when you have the time. Alright, but for the most part, for this gun, you want to be aiming medium to long range in bursts of 3 to 4.
Spotted a hostile. Enemy medic in the area.
Okay, so that's very good stuff. Now, let's say you like this weapon. Let's say you've played NC for a little while, you've played Heavy Assault. And you like how the weapon handles, and you've gotten some decent shots off with it, and it's just doing well for you. Alright, so you're probably going to want to look into getting some attachments for the gun, right? You're well practiced at this point in engaging only at medium to long range, firing in bursts of 3 to 4. Let's look at some attachments that you can look to spend some of your certifications on for this weapon. Alright, so to do that, we click on the equipment terminal, you hit the NC6 Gauss saw, you click on change attachments. Okay, you have 5 available attachments for your weapon, actually 4 attachments and a camo, which is just a cosmetic paint job for your gun. And you can choose whichever one of these you want. There's a lot of them. You pay real money for these. I don't think any of these are available for certification points, but these are real money. But if you wanted to, you could do things like pick up the Grayscales camo, or really whatever camo you want. Abstract camo. They're paint jobs for your gun. I personally won't be using one for this video. Okay, so you have 4 attachments: optic, barrel, rail, and ammo. All kinds of different options here. It can be a little bit overwhelming. I will tell you right now, for the NC6 Gauss saw, the lowest cost and the highest impact optics that you're going to want to use, and in fact these are the only optics you're really going to want to use for this gun, are either a 1x reflex sight or a 2x reflex sight. Now you're going to get different opinions from different players who will tell you which of these is better, but really make your own decision between 1x and 2x. I prefer the 1x reflex sight, and as you can see, it costs 5 certification points. I'm going to click on it. Now, we are in the virtual reality training area of this game. This isn't going to cost me anything, not real money, not certification points, nothing. I can try out any weapon, any class, any vehicle, any certification here without having to worry about spending anything at all on them. So the VR is a great place to come if you want to try out things before purchasing them, which is what we're doing right now. So the TechLight 1X reflex sight, which is my preferred sight, I'm going to hit equip right there, will give you a red dot. As you can see, it's very nice and clean field of view right there. The red dot is very accurate on this gun, on any gun really. I like the 1X. The 1X lets me keep a nice large field of view while I'm aiming at targets. Keep my nice long, my nice wide field of view with the very accurate red dot in the middle of the sight there. Remember, medium to long range.
Enemy engineer in the area.
In bursts of 3 to 4. Okay. Bursts of 3 to 4. Okay. So 1X sight, fantastic. I like the 1X sight. It's my preferred sight for this gun. But you can also use, and also if you wanted to change attachments, you can just come to the equipment terminal, and all of the slots that you can change are right here, just right there. You got optic, barrel, rail, and ammo right there. So we're going to click on the optic attachment. Alright, we're going to switch over to the 2X reflex sight now, just so you folks can see what this is all about. I'm going to resupply, equip that. The 2X sight gives you a 2X zoom. The 1X aims exactly as if you were aiming down sights. You don't get a zoom, you just get more accurate red dot. But this gives you a zoom, a 2X zoom with the red dot. So it's actually really nice, and you would figure that this gun, designed to be used at medium to long ranges, would benefit, or would be benefited very strongly by a zoom, right? Okay, yeah, and it's true. I mean, there is some logic there, and for a lot of players, that's the way to go.
Spotted an enemy. Eyes open, enemy. Watch it, switch, enemy spotted.
Okay, so the zoom can help you land some shots at those medium to long ranges that you will be using this weapon in, and if that's your thing,
enemy engineer spotted. Eyes on hostile lights on.
then by all means go right ahead. Use the 2X if that's what you prefer. Try them out, see which one you like. They only cost 5 certification points each, so if you wanted to pick them both up, it's just 10 cert points if you wanted to have them both, or 5 if you find just one that you prefer. I prefer the 1X, but it's totally up to you. Those are the 2 sights that I would recommend. There is some notion that maybe you might want to consider going up to the 3.4X, which again is the further end of medium to long range. Let's go ahead and click on the 3.4X sight and see what that looks like. It's a scope, and it gives you the 3.4X zoom, so you've got even more zoom on the gun now. But I personally wouldn't recommend this for most situations, if any, because when you're zoomed in this far, the NC6 Gauss saw and its notorious kicking, the way that it jerks up and down while you're firing, will affect your stability here. See how much the screen shakes when I'm firing?
Enemy medic in here.
I just can't really see that much of a reason
Spotted a hostile.
to get that kind of zoom with this, unless you are making use of one of the gun's most advanced features, which is the fact that the first round out of the barrel is always deadly accurate. If you're trying to use this as a sort of semi-auto, long-range sniping type gun, then maybe this is something you want to try out. See, that it can be used that way, but for the most part, you're going to be using it at medium to long ranges, and you're not going to be firing one round at a time. You're going to be firing in bursts of 3 to 4. And with this sight, for me, the screen shakes just too much. But if you wanted to try out that type of play, where you rely on this gun's first deadly accurate round, wow, really accurate. I have to put the red dot right on his head. The bullet drop is not high enough to aim above. So again, this gun has an extremely high muzzle velocity. The bullets fly far, they hit fast. They fly far, they fly fast, and they hit hard. That's the deal with this gun. So if you wanted to use this 3.4x sight, if you're a more advanced player, go right ahead. It's something you might want to try. But for the most part, I would recommend for newer players the 1x or the 2x reflex sights. Okay, I'm going to equip the 1x. And that's the first thing you should look to upgrade on this gun if it is something that you find to be desirable to you. If it's a gun that you find it works for you. Alright, now let's talk about the barrel attachment, the rail attachment, and the ammo attachment. The next upgrade you should be looking to purchase should either be the compensator, which will decrease the gun's vertical recoil, which we saw earlier is very strong. So decreasing the vertical recoil on this weapon will increase your ability to control it, so you'll land more shots. Or you'll be wanting to use the high velocity ammunition, which quite significantly upgrades the damage of this gun at medium to long ranges, which is what you want. This gun fires at medium to long range. It's designed for medium to long range, so you want to up your damage at medium to long range. So which of these should you get first? These do cost 100 certification points each. It's really up to you. If you find you can control the weapon and you want to get more damage with every round that you land, then look for the high velocity ammunition. That would probably be for you. If you find you're having difficulty controlling the gun, then get the compensator first. It'll give you more control over the weapon. Now, the compensator's downside is that the gun makes louder sound, and that causes the player to show on the minimap for enemies, for opponents from farther away. But that's not really a big issue, because as a heavy assault, you're probably not sneaking around anyway. You're probably among other heavy assaults, medics, engineers, maxes, maybe lightning tanks, just ground forces in general. You're on the ground, you're with a bunch of other players. Your position probably isn't a secret if you're a heavy assault. So that's not even really a major downside. The other downside is that the compensator also increases the weapon's bulk, which reduces accuracy when firing from the hip. As we learned earlier, you only want to be firing from the hip in close range, and at extreme close range, the decreased accuracy doesn't matter anyway. So if you are avoiding close range engagements, which you should be with the NC6 Gauss saw, then the compensator's downsides are almost negligible, while the increase in control with this is a big benefit. So it's well worth the 100 cert points. Let's go ahead and equip the compensator so we can show you exactly what we're talking about here. Now, if you'll remember from earlier, the amount that the gun pulled up was rather significant, but now it takes a lot more rounds before it actually crosses all the way up to the top of this little white, whatever you want to call this, base of this beam here. But it took a lot more rounds, or it took some more rounds, for it to get to the top. So the weapon is more controllable. You have to pull down on the mouse less. And it gives you those nice tight shots, but you should, those nice tight clusters. But you should only be firing in bursts of 3 to 4 anyway, those are 4. That was 3 to 5, but you know you're gonna that 5th round is gonna sneak in there sometimes. But yeah, as you can see, the clusters are nice and tight, and that's what you want. You want that accuracy. Okay, so if you need more control of the gun, then you want the compensator. But if you don't have any trouble controlling the gun, you're used to it, you can compensate for the kick very well, then the upgrade you're going to want is high velocity ammunition. Now, there's a bunch of numbers right there in the description, and there are a lot of numbers and stats online, or there are numbers and stats online about how much damage is affected close and long range. I'm just going to tell you right now that you want high velocity ammunition for the NC6 Gauss saw. We're not going to talk about the numbers. I will tell you that I've looked at the numbers, and at medium to long ranges, the increase in damage is significant, and the decrease in close range effectiveness is negligible because you're not looking to get engaged in close range fights with high velocity ammunition or with the NC6 Gauss saw. So if you can control the weapon, then pick up high velocity ammunition first. It's going to give you more damage at range. And really, that's what you want. You want to have that extra damage. Ideally, you're going to want both the compensator and high velocity ammunition. Now, there is another slot, if you've noticed. There is another slot that we haven't talked about. We haven't talked about the rail slot yet, right? So the rail slot, the only one of these that you're going to want is the advanced forward grip. But I say you can skip this almost entirely if you want to. It's something you're going to want to get eventually, and this is one of the things that makes the NC6 Gauss saw such an advanced weapon. What an advanced forward grip does for you is it reduces the horizontal, that's left and right, recoil by 33%. But let's look at this gun's horizontal recoil as it is. Let's go ahead and pick up the compensator, because eventually you're going to get your gun to this point. You're going to have an optic, you're going to have the compensator, and you're going to have high velocity ammunition. Okay, those are the 3 you should be worrying about most, and saving the forward grip for later. But let's look at this real quick. This is without the... I'm not going to move the mouse at all, and this is without the forward grip. Okay, now you can see when I first started firing the weapon, the left and right deviation is not that great. It juts off to the... there's a shot here, then it juts off to the right little, then a little to the left, then it goes straight up for a couple shots, then it juts off to the right, then again to the left, and then a little bit to the right, and then it juts around a little bit, and then as I held the gun longer, I held the trigger longer, then yeah, the left and right variations began to get a little bit more drastic. It starts to kick more to the left and right over here, okay? But when you first started firing, the left and right deviation was not that great, which means if you are firing in bursts of 3 to 4, the left and right deviation doesn't really matter, almost at all. Okay, if you wanted to decrease the recoil of the gun, the compensator is all you really need. You can skip the advanced forward grip for a long time, or indefinitely if you want to. It does cost 200 certification points. That's a big investment for a new player. It's not something that I would recommend getting for the NC6 Gauss saw early on. I do recommend getting it eventually because it does reduce horizontal recoil, which does increase the accuracy of the weapon, just maybe not 200 certification points worth of increase in accuracy for a newer player. But at some point, you do want to pick up the advanced forward grip for the gun. Okay, so at some point, this is what your gun is going to look like. For a long time, it's probably going to look like this. You're going to get the optic, the compensator, and the high velocity ammunition with no rail attachment. But eventually, once you have 200 cert points just lying around, you'll pick up the advanced forward grip, and this is what your NC6 Gauss saw is eventually going to become. All of these attachments are designed to work at medium to long range, increase the gun's strengths, and reduce and minimize or reduce the gun's downsides, which is the fact that it's difficult to control. But eventually, you will be using a weapon just like this, except yours might have a different optic, of course, depending on whichever one you prefer. You know, I just noticed that 5th round, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That 5th shot kind of sneaks in my bursts. And that's probably because I'm accustomed to using this gun with the compensator. Once you have a compensator, you can probably let a 5th round sneak in each burst because you have more control over the gun. So maybe the 3 to 4 rule becomes 3 to 5 or 4 to 5. I think you should still stick to the 3 to 4 rule even if you have the compensator, but once you get the compensator, that 5th round sneaking in isn't really a big issue. Okay, so that is the NC6 Gauss saw. Now we're going to be moving on to the other factions. Like I said, talking about those is going to be a lot shorter because they are not nearly as advanced as the NC6 Gauss saw is. They are actually very easy to use weapons. Let's just get to talking about them. This was the New Conglomerate's NC6 Gauss saw. Okay, moving on, let's talk about the T9 Carv, which is the heavy assault class for the Terran Republic's primary default weapon. Again, this is exactly as if you had rolled a new account, starting a new character. This is the gun your heavy assault on TR would be using. The T9 Carv. Let's just get started with this gun. To be perfectly honest, this gun is sort of a pleasure to use. I'm a New Conglomerate player, but I fully recognize a nice gun when I see it. And I'm willing to give credit where credit is due. Oops, I'm firing on red because they're TR. That's just the thing I've been accustomed to. I gotta get used to firing on not red things with this when I'm playing as TR on this in this video. Anyway, the T9 Carv. Like the NC6 Gauss saw, this is a medium to long range weapon, but it is much more controllable. It has less recoil, it fires faster, its bullets don't hit nearly as hard. It is not the cannon that the NC6 Gauss saw is, but it fires more rounds faster. Well, it fires rounds more quickly. So what it lacks in each bullet dealing damage, it makes up for in sending more bullets down range. And again, it just feels very nice to use this weapon because it's extremely easy to control. I think you can get away with 5 rounds consistently. Actually, let's just say 7. I think you can actually get away with 7 to 9 rounds in each burst with this gun, as opposed to the NC6 Gauss saw's 3 to 4. You can get away with, let's say, 7 to 9. But the 3 to 4 rule still applies here. You can still use that if you want to. It's perfectly fine to use the 3 to 4 rule. That's even more controllable. But don't be afraid to let the gun keep going for a little bit with this one, because the Terran Republic weapons' strengths are their attack speed or their fire rate.
Enemy engineer in the area.
That's one thing you have to learn how to do whenever you are using a Terran Republic weapon, is that if they are at longer ranges, then fire in shorter bursts. But if they're closer, feel free to put your finger on that trigger and hold it down for a bit, because this gun does not you do not lose control of this gun easily. And like the NC6 Gauss saw, if you are in close range, you will be hip firing with this gun. Except you can actually engage in close quarters combat with the T9 Carv. With this gun, you can engage in close quarters combat and use hip fire, and still be able to take out targets with fair ease. Jumping back and forth between hip fire and aiming down sights with this gun just feels very nice. But be aware that your rounds don't deal as much damage as some of your other opponents on the field. Okay, so your bullets don't hit as hard, but you fire bullets faster and your gun is more controllable. Remember, the closer they are, when you're aiming down sights, the longer you can hold down the trigger. Alright, let's go ahead and load up on ammo here. So the closer they are when you're aiming down sights, the longer you can hold down the trigger. The further they are, the more you want to fall back to the 3 to 4 round bursts. See those targets that are really far away? The 3 to 4 rounds is fine there. But for these closer targets, like targets in this range or so, you can hold down the trigger. And you can see the gun doesn't do a lot to jerk left and right or up and down. So it's a very controllable weapon. Feels really good. All right, let's take a look at the types of recoil. Not going to move the mouse at all. Okay, now you can see this gun does start to sway left and right more heavily and sooner than the NC6 Gauss saw does. So you do have to worry a little bit about left and right sway when you hold the gun down longer. But as long as you're sticking to 3 to 4 round bursts, or let's say 7 to 9. Look at that tight cluster right there. See, this is a very controllable gun. That was like 9 rounds right there, and almost all of them landed right there. As long as you're sticking to bursts, you don't have to worry about the gun swaying too far left and right. You do still have to pull down on the mouse to compensate for its recoil, just like any other gun. But you have to do it less because it's much more controllable. So overall, this is just a this gun is a treat to use. And the Terran Republic have a very, very nice starter weapon with this gun. Alright, so let's say you've been using this weapon for a while and you're liking it, you're liking playing heavy assault and it's working out for you, and you want to look into upgrade paths for this gun. Let's go ahead and get started on that. Let's take a look at the different attachments you want to use for this gun. Again, you've got the multiple types of attachments, except you don't have an ammo option for the T9 Carv. You don't have options for high velocity ammunition. You wouldn't really need it for the T9 Carv. So there is no option for an ammo attachment. Alright, for optics, again, I would recommend the 1x reflex sight, which looks very nice for TR, or the 2x reflex sight, also looks very nice for TR. But if you use the 1x reflex sight, this is what it looks like. So you get a nice, clean looking view there. Again, if you are engaging at medium to long ranges, which you will be for the most part with the T9 Carv, then you want a 1x reflex sight or a 2x reflex sight. Let's see, I think there is a nice, there's a nice one that looks just like a dot. This is the one that I like right here for the TR. The RTA reflex sight 1x, the one that's just got the little dot in the middle of the circle. There we go, that's the one I like. Very nice looking sight. Again, this weapon is just a treat to use. It's one that you're going to be able to use when you just start the character, and one you may very well find yourself using all the way whenever you've got like thousands of hours in this game. Just a really good gun. It's extremely well-rounded. Now, it may not be as good at long ranges as the it may not be as good at long ranges as the NC6 Gauss saw, and it may not be as good at short ranges as the Vanu's Orion. But it is a well-rounded weapon that can handle just about any situation. So while in extreme long range or extreme close range you may be outperformed by NC and VS weapons, in medium ranges or anything in between, or the fact that this weapon is a very adaptable gun, you have strengths there. You have strengths in the fact that this is a very well-rounded weapon. Just so easy to control, feels very nice. You TR players, you have a very, very fantastic weapon here. Alright, so once again, just like with the NC6 Gauss saw, you want to choose between 1x, the switch to the 2x reflex sight so you folks can see what the 2x is like. 2x looks very similar, you got that circle, and of course you've got the zoom. This gun is meant to be used in mostly medium to long range engagements, so, and of course, you can still use it close quarters. Don't feel like a New Conglomerate player would feel, in that you have to avoid close range engagements with your heavy assault default gun. You can get into close range engagements with this gun and do just fine. So again, you have adaptability there. But there's the 2x sight. It's got the zoom. It'll help you in sending those rounds down range. Again, reload when you have time. It takes a long time to reload this gun, just like a lot of other heavy weapons.
Gate terminals allow long-range transportation for infantry units. It allows a soldier to travel to any linked location in an instant.
Yeah, thanks. So yeah, there is that. Now let's talk about the other attachments for this gun. I will switch back to the 1X. Let's go to the 1X here. Alright, change attachment, optic. 1X reflex sight, that is my preferred, once again. Now, as far as barrel attachments go, you don't need either of these. just take my word on it. I mean, you could read them if you want to, but you can see how neither of these would help a heavy assault, would help the T9 Carv. And then you have rail attachments. Now, this is something you do want to take a look at. You are going to want the forward grip for this weapon at some point. You want the forward grip for this gun because it increases control of the weapon, reducing horizontal recoil by 25%. And as we saw earlier, this gun does start to sway left and right sooner than the new conglomerate's NC6 Gauss saw. So you do want that extra control, so you want to pick up a forward grip for this gun at some point. But besides your optic, which is only 5 certifications, and your forward grip, that's all you really need for this gun. You don't need a barrel attachment, there are no ammo attachments, and camo completely up to you. But yeah, these are the only 2 upgrades you're going to want for this gun. Again, very adaptable, very versatile, very easy to get into its primary state, or to its most effective state, which is optic and forward grip. So let's go ahead and hit resupply. Now I've got even more control of this weapon. It's already a controllable weapon as it is, but you are emphasizing its strength by adding that forward grip. Now it's just very easy to keep this reticle on targets. Extremely easy, maybe even a little too easy. Really easy to run out of ammo with this thing too because of how quickly it fires rounds. But yeah, just an extremely controllable weapon. There's not a whole lot more to say about it than that. You want to engage at medium to long ranges and bursts of 3 to 4 at the longer ranges, or going up to 7 to 9 at medium ranges, and also, alright, let's cover them. At longer ranges, like this target over here, you're going to want to burst 3 to 4. So you can take out targets like that. At close ranges, feel free to open up with hip fire. And at medium ranges, medium-ish ranges, like this right here, of course you're going to be aiming down sights. And you can, again, feel free to hold the trigger for 7 to 9 rounds or so. So yeah, that's all you really need to know. Just get in there, start using this weapon. It's very difficult to use this weapon incorrectly. It is very difficult to use this weapon incorrectly. It's just a good gun. Alright, so there's not much more to say about it than that. You can pick up a sight for yourself, get yourself a forward grip, go have a good time with this gun. Let's move on to the Vanu Sovereignty's gun. Okay, now let's talk about the Vanu Sovereignty's Heavy Assault class. The default primary weapon for the Vanu Sovereignty, for their Heavy Assault class, is the Orion VS54. And this weapon is different from the other 2. The new conglomerates, NC6 Gauss Saw and the Terran Republic's T9 Carv, are both very useful at medium to long ranges, but the Orion is useful in close to medium range. So that's a bit of a different playstyle for the Vanu Sovereignty. So let's hit resupply. Whoa, okay. Reload right off the bat because I clicked or something. Alright, so as we can see here, the cone of fire for this gun is a lot tighter when you're firing from the hip. And that is indicative of a weapon that is designed to be used in close range combat. Also, you've only got 50 rounds in the battery, I guess that's what they would call them. Most guns would have magazines, but I think Vanu guns have a battery. Anyway, you've got 50 rounds in the battery and 200, it says 199, but 200 in reserve. Let's go ahead and reload here. There we go. See, 50 in the battery and 200 in reserve. So there is that with this gun. It is designed to be used in medium to close ranges because it is an energy weapon. Let me talk a little bit about what energy weapons are. The Vanu Sovereignty have energy weapons. They have very little recoil and they're extremely accurate. That's what energy weapons will do for you. Okay. But as you can see, at medium to long range with this gun, I'm already out of ammo, and the gun kind of kicks a little bit too much for you to get a lot of accurate shots off, unless you wanted to fire in bursts of 1 to 2. But the gun just doesn't perform that well. It just doesn't perform that well in medium to long ranges. You're going to go through a lot of ammo and deal very little damage. Because this is an energy weapon, the beams, the projectiles, lose a lot of damage over distance. That took a lot of rounds to take out that TR infiltrator, and infiltrators have the fewest hit points in the game. So as you can see, Vanu weapons, or the Orion specifically, loses a lot of damage over range. Because it is an energy weapon, it loses energy as it flies, and it doesn't keep that same impact that bullets do, because you are firing laser beams, which is kind of cool. I mean, they're laser beams. But this is a gun that, since it loses that energy over distance, you want to be using in close range. So this is where the gun shines, because it's got this very tight cone of fire in closer ranges. Too many Vanu targets right now. A lot of Vanu targets spawning right in front of me. Because it has that cone of fire, you want to be engaging at medium to close ranges. And of course, at medium ranges, you are going to want to aim down sights. The weapon is also very controllable, because Vanu weapons just do that. They're energy weapons. They don't have the mechanics, like a hammer that hits down on a bullet, or that hits down on the cap of a bullet, sends it flying, and all of the stuff that happens whenever a bullet leaves the barrel. Vanu weapons, they're energy weapons. They don't have all of those moving parts, so they're very easy to control guns. See how many rounds it took just to reach the top? It took us 35 rounds to reach the top of that. And the left and right sway was not that great until you reach the top of this column here. And for the most part, in the first half of the rounds, the recoil was very manageable. Left and right, up and down, very easily controlled gun. So whenever you are firing in medium distances, like targets like that, you won't have to compensate too much, and you can open up in lots of rounds. You don't have to worry about bursting very much in medium ranges with this gun. And in close ranges, of course, you're just going to be opening up and holding down the trigger until your target falls. That's what you're going to want to be doing there. And I'm just going to be firing on Vanu targets as long as they keep appearing in front of me. See, you want to be engaging in close ranges. That's how this gun works. And you don't have to worry too much about bursting this weapon in medium range. You can just hold down the trigger whenever you get a medium range target. See that? Because the gun doesn't really kick left and right or up and down all that much. But engage in close to medium range combat. Don't engage at long ranges with this gun, because that is where this gun absolutely does not shine. And you'll be good to go. It is a good beginner weapon as well. I don't think it's as great of a beginner weapon as the T9 Carv for the Terran Republic, but it is a fantastic beginner weapon. The Orion is a fantastic beginner weapon as well. Really good for those close range engagements, and you can provide support fire even at long range if you wanted to. As long as you're willing to burst fire at long range in bursts of 1 to 2. But close range and medium range are where this gun are going to shine. Alright, so you've been playing Vanu Heavy Assault for a while. And you like how the gun goes, and you like how the gun feels. It's doing well for you, and you want to get some upgrades for it. Let's talk about the upgrades for the gun. Alright, so the Orion VS4, you're going to click on it, and it's got some attachments just like every other gun. Again, you don't have an ammo attachment, so you really don't have to worry about optic. And you don't got to worry about barrel, but you do have to worry about rail. Alright, so optic and rail are the only two attachments you want to pay attention to. Just like with the others, you're going to want to pick up a reflex sight for this gun, because you're not going to be firing in long ranges. So you do want a reflex sight just to increase your accuracy a little bit when you are firing at medium range. I'd say a 1x reflex sight is perfectly fine for this gun. You might want to go 2x if that's something that appeals to you, but I like the 1x reflex sight for this gun. Now look how clean. This is one thing I really like about Vanu guns. If you want to see a nice clean reflex sight, the Vanu have a clean reflex sight. I'm going to come out here and show you folks that. Now I've got a 1x reflex sight. Check this out. That is such a nice view, isn't it? But again, that is far from optimal ranges. You want to be firing at medium range, of course. If you are going to be aiming down sights, it's because you're aiming at somebody in medium range, most likely. Again, whenever you are firing at somebody in medium range, just feel free to hold down the trigger. The left and right and up and down recoil of this gun are really not that difficult to manage, so you can hold down the trigger. You don't got to worry about bursting. You do have to worry about bursting if you're firing at long range. I know I've repeated this stuff. I'm just trying to make sure I get the idea across. And when you are firing at long range, make sure to fire in bursts of 1 or 2, because this gun does make it kind of difficult for you to hit those further targets.
Enemy medic in the area.
Yeah, long range is not really where this gun's strong suits lie. So, but yeah, at some point you're going to be firing, at a lot of points you're going to be firing at medium range targets. And of course, for that you're going to want a nice clean sight. A reflex sight is good. 1x is probably perfect. It is for me, but I mean, if you wanted to go as far as loading up a 2x reflex sight, by all means go right ahead. Let's find it. Here's a good one. VHO reflex? Yeah, sure, we'll do that. So this is a reflex sight. There's another one. VHO reflex sight. Whatever works for you as far as the sights are concerned. I'm going to load up the 1x right here. And now let's talk about the rail attachment. So for the rail attachment, you would be surprised to know that you're not really going to be using the forward grip for the rail attachment. You're going to be using the laser sight for it, because the laser sight increases accuracy when firing from the hip. The forward grip will reduce recoil of the gun, well, horizontal recoil of the gun, by 25%. But as we've seen, the recoil of this gun is not that strong anyway. Also, that would really only help you if you're aiming down sights and firing at medium to long ranges, which you won't be doing with this gun very often. Or that's not its effective range. So you want to increase the weapon's strength. You want to emphasize its strengths. And to do that, the laser sight is your best bet. It increases accuracy when firing from the hip. So you want the laser sight for the Orion. So let's select the laser sight, hit resupply. Alright, and now we've got the laser sight attached. Whenever you first equip the laser sight, you might actually see the laser. To turn that off, you will hit L on your keyboard, and that should turn off the laser sight for you. You will still keep the laser sight's benefit, but if it's something you don't want on your screen all the time, then you can hit the L button, or the L key on your keyboard, and that should turn it off. And if it's not the L key, it might not be the L key, you can go to Settings, and then Key Binding, and then Infantry, and you can scroll until you find Toggle Attachment, and this key is what you want to use to turn off the laser sight. I don't know if I've been saying reflex, but it's laser sight. You might want to turn off the laser sight with that. Okay, so there is that. Now that we've equipped the laser sight, we've got an even tighter cone of fire for our hip fire, and that's what you want. That'll increase your effectiveness at close to medium ranges. Doesn't increase the weapon's damage any, but it does increase the number of rounds you land and how accurate the gun is at its effective range, which is medium to close. And of course, you're going to want to aim for the head. And if you have a tighter cone of fire, it's easier to put more rounds in the torso and upper area of a character model. At that range, of course, you're going to want to aim down sights. Manage your ammo. You've only got 50 rounds in the battery. I'm finding myself bursting a little bit. And that's something you want to do with this gun whenever you're in medium ranges. Because as you fire, you will notice that these crosshairs spread out, which decreases accuracy the longer you fire. But if you burst with it while you're at medium ranges or close ranges even, you can keep the reticle nice and tight. You can keep the crosshairs nice and tight. At those medium ranges, aim down sights, and you'll be good to go with this gun. Really not a whole lot else to say about that. We've covered the attachments, we've covered its effective ranges, and how to use the gun. It's not an advanced weapon like the NC6 Gauss saw, and it's not a medium to long range weapon like the T9 Carv and the NC6 Gauss saw. It's a close range, hip fire weapon for the most part, but can very well be very effective when aiming down sights at medium ranges. So that's how you're going to want to use it. Alright, I think that will cover it for the Orion. Alright, well, that will do it for this little introductory video about how to use the various default starter weapons for the NC, TR, and VS. It's a little bit of reaver flying to close up the video as the sun sets here in the virtual reality area of the game, which you can get to from any world terminal, any warp gate or any world terminal in the warp gate. You can get here from there. In case you were curious about how to actually get here, that would be how you do it. I hope you folks enjoyed this video. Thanks a lot for watching, and I will see you folks next time.